Peace and love, family. This is Chief Cortland Kalaniel coming live and direct from iselflawandmaster.com. And today we have a very, very, very special and important lesson that we're going to be teaching. And this lesson today is going to be called the Trust Fund Baby. And we'll be basically creating a trust to fund the baby's dreams here in the future. That's basically it in simple words. And we're going to start from part one. So let's get it going. First, we're going to start with authenticating the birth certificate. If you chose to have a birth certificate for your child, and you didn't understand the private game at that point, that's cool. It's all good, because you're just going to have to teach them commerce throughout their life so that they can understand it by the time they get 18 and how to use that instrument. So if you have a birth certificate, the first thing we want to do is authenticate it. Now, we've talked about this in past lessons before. We've had a lot of students who've had success already doing this for themselves. It's important, because if you have a child, you need to do the exact same thing for them too. So you want to authenticate your birth certificate on the state level with your Secretary of State. I'm sure you can go online, go on Google, look up for your state secretary authentication and see what their requirements are. I'm sure there's probably an authentication form you got to send in. Go ahead and send in your birth certificate. If you don't have your birth certificate, let me rewind back. If you don't have your birth certificate yet, or you have an old one already, you want to get another copy, you need to order a certified copy of your birth certificate from the Vital Statistics Department, the long form if you can. So once you get that birth certificate back and you authenticate it, and you want to get it authenticated for a country, that's not in the Hague Convention. Now, we break that down and get into the depths of that in lesson one, a state lesson plan one, if you want to go check that out. But you just need to choose a country that's not in the Hague Convention. We always go with something like Jamaica. That's one that we've used multiple times, haven't had too many problems, and people have been able to get their paperwork and things authenticated. So once you get it back, you'll have something that looks like what you see on the screen right now, which is an authenticated version of your birth certificate. What you're doing with this now is basically claiming your property outside of the foreign jurisdiction of the United States. You basically went and took your property back and said, yo, I'm a sovereign person and this is my property and I own this as mine. Now, after you do that, it's very important, if you would like to, you can get a legal name change. If you want to change your status, which is very important, I believe, if you want to have a nationality change, which is also a status correction in the system, which is really just that. You're just getting a status correction. You're not really doing much. Everything isn't changing for you. The world doesn't come to an end. No, you're just having a status correction. You're just really changing that birth certificate, the title on your body. And when you do that, all you're doing is going back and you're changing, if you want to, you can change the name. You can add an L or a Bay if you want to. That's not a must or anything you have to do. But the thing that's very important that you want to do, that's important, because you're not just going there to do a name change, a legal name change. You're actually going so that you can change that status of being a black or a African American, Negro, Hispanic, anything like that, any of those colors of the rainbows or whatever that they labeled you as on your birth certificate. That's what makes you actually chattel to their corporation. And I say that because that's what makes you a U.S. 14th Amendment citizen. This 14th Amendment citizen is really what is keeping our people here in bondage here in America, because we're not operating as the people, as you see on all these state constitutions, that all these rights are protecting and all these inalienable rights. Those are for the people of the Constitution who are operating in their sovereign status under the republic. Now, those who are operating under the state, when you go to court, it says the state of, not the republic, but the state of, those are operating in the 14th Amendment shadow status. Those are those people on their birth certificates that says blacks, the Negroes, or Hispanic, brown, whatever. So it's important that we go back and get those certificate of titles changed and actually get, Aboriginal, get more, whatever put on there. So now you actually can't get pulled over by the police and harassed as a 14th Amendment shadow, because you have an order from the judge saying and proving that you are a national and you are to be treated as the people and not an actual 14th Amendment shadow. We must understand there's two different governments, and I won't even say government, there's two different systems in operation here. You have the sovereign republic and you also have the corporation, right? And the corporation is what the 13 colonies came over here and eventually erected over time. The republic is what the sovereign Americans already had that were here, right? Before the colonists got here. So that's what we must understand. And if we want to go back to operating sovereign and operating free, then we're going to have to go back to the Republic. And that's why you see a lot of these movies like Star Wars and different things like that always talking about the Republic, because really they're giving you hints, always talking about the Republic, the Republic. This is really what a lot of this is all about, us coming back to the Republic, especially as Aboriginals and Moors, and getting back into our operating sovereign states. Anyway, so that's another discussion. But that's why we want to get the birth certificate changed. It's very important that we do that. Okay, so after we authenticate the birth certificate, then we actually go and do a legal name change and get the birth certificate changed for the status. Then that's when we can actually go ahead and create a foreign EIN, right? We can get us a foreign EIN for our actual trust that we're going to create now. Okay, so we're going to have a foreign situs trust. That's what this is called, a foreign situs trust. Now, if you actually go back in some of our other lessons, you can actually see an estate planning lesson. It might be lesson 2 or lesson 3, one of them like that. But yeah, you go through there and you can actually see, and of course I gave you some notes too as well on how to exactly set up a trust with the IRS and get your SS4 form. That's what's going to be very important. You're going to want to make sure that you fill out your SS4 form correctly, and and make sure that you have all of those details good, because that's what you're going to have to call in and get a foreign EIN for. You want to get a foreign EIN for your child's trust fund. There's domestic trust and then there's foreign trust. All domestic trusts are controlled by the United States Corporation. It's domestic. You want to be foreign and operating outside of the United States trust, okay? Understand? Now we're going to start with breaking down the trust. And this is not just a regular trust now, people. This is what I like to call a super trust. And it has everything you need to secure yourself, your family, and all the assets that are within it. Now again, you can use the same trust template for your child and their trust, and you can use the same one even for yourself if you haven't set up your own trust yet. So let's just start off at the top, and let's get it going. Okay, first and foremost, it says attention. Minister, you can put minister or whatever you feel comfortable with going as. I'm gonna just use my name, Cortland Kalaniel, trustee of the confidential Cortland Reese White Trust. We'll just call it that. Proprietary information contained herein. Cool. Now let's scroll in. This is just the cover sheet, for your actual trust. You want to make it look nice, neat, pretty, whatever. And again, of course, you're going to have your table of contents. Let's go ahead and check this out. Again, these are your articles, right? Just like whenever you're creating a trust, you always got to have something like a constitution, the Bill of Rights, the articles. Again, there is no United States without the Constitution. Again, because it's a trust. This is all trust law. And now you have created your own constitution and trust for your life, because now you are operating privately under your own trust and rules, right? Table of contents. Article 1, we have the trust formation and protection. Article 2, you have the legal status and validity. Section 2.1, the organization and the governance. Section 2.2, the purpose and the powers. Then we have Article 3, the operation and the mission. Article 4, outside help and advance. Article 5, what to do when you're going to be dealing with lawsuits. Article 6 deals with how this trust and this entity is going to manage and handle its investments. Article 7 deals with the establishment of financial accounts dealing with this trust. Article 8 deals with the rights and the ownerships of the things that this trust owns and the property that it acquires. Article 9 is the purchase or exchange, sale, pledge of assets of held securities. Article 10 is the real or personal property in possession. Article 11, the donors or sellers, the donors and sellers of the trust. Article 12, the taxes. Article 13, the pour over authority. Article 14, trustees, the powers, the rights and obligations. Article 15, the administration of the trust. Article 16, notice given under the trust. Article 17, the irrevocable terms of the trust. And also here within the trust is a certificate of acknowledgement of notary public. Again, this is what you're going to be getting notarized. And you have your Schedule A, which is shows the trust assets and everything that belongs to it. And you have memorandum of trust and your certificate of trust. Again, you're going to want to keep all of those things because you're going to need those in order to open up a bank account. Cool. So let's move along. Okay, again, you have your declaration of trust for your name, the date. You know, you want to put your EIN under here, your foreign EIN, the state that you're operating. Again, don't put it in all caps. Put the state in uppercase, lowercase, because you're operating under the republic side of the state and not the corporate side of the state in all caps, right? Again, we're operating as de jure, not de facto people. Okay. Keep scrolling down. Okay. And as you see here, just going through the trust document, we have the witness, this agreement in God we trust. You know, whereas, you know, in consideration of the mutual agreements herein contained, the grantor hereby irrevocably assigns, transfer, conveys, and delivers all assets, whether real or personal, and such valuable consideration as now owned or in the future may be so transferred unto the trust known as, and this would be the name of your trust right here, in fee simple to own and possess full and absolute rights, title, and interest to property called trust assets, and all more particularly described in the attached hereto and made a part of hereto Schedule A, or recorded on the financing statement and made a part thereof. Okay, so just basically, long story short, this is explaining, you know, that you've made an agreement that, you know, this personal property of this trust, you know, everything that's acquired that you have personally will be going into this trust agreement that you made with this trust. And it's basically it, just explaining the trust agreement right here. This is a template, people. You can fill it out how you want to. Again, you have your formation and protection. This is an irrevocable trust. It's a private trust created and organized under the covenant of God. As you see there under Article 1. Again, this is all operating under common law and ecclesiastical law. So we need to understand that this is an irrevocable trust that you're creating that operates under common law. And anything and all assets that you acquire under this trust, right, operate under those rules and regulations under common law that you create. Again, creating a trust is all about creating your world, creating your opportunities and how you see fit, right? So this is what that is. Article 2, your legal status and validity. Your organization and governments. This trust is under agreement, is organized under common law, again, and shall be governed by the multilateral treaties on private international law or trust laws of its situs jurisdiction. Basically just saying you have all operating right, free right to operate as a free man under this trust and under these laws and bylaws that you're setting with these articles for your life. You know, you have your personal properties, your taxes, your trust powers, you know, just basically explains the trustees, the people who are going to be operating the trust, and what their rules are and how they can move and how they can operate on behalf of the beneficiary. And again, it's important to know you can be there's 3 points in a trust. You are the executor, the mother, the father who created the trust for the child. And the child is the beneficiary, right? He's the child, you know. And not only can you be the executor on behalf of the child, but you can be the trustee, right? You know, who's basically, you know, operating on behalf of the son until he gets old enough to take over his trust. So you can be the executor and the trustee on behalf of the benefit of the child, right? The beneficiary. Everything is always for the benefit of the beneficiary. So that's just the basics of trust law, and trust law is always going on around us. Just go through here, fill this out, you know, where it says you need to get it notarized, all of that good stuff. Cool, do that, and you'll be good. I mean, it's actually quite simple to fill the trust template out. I'm not going to make it too hard or too long or drawn out. I'm definitely not going to go through here and read all of this. But, you know, this is the good thing about our self-learning master. We just ain't going to give it to you, just tell you, give you a template. We're going to actually make you go through here and study this information too for yourself, right? Because you need to know and overstand this information and not just regurgitate it and fill out some paperwork. You sign it down at the bottom, you sign that certificate of trust, sign that memorandum. Again, these are all the things that you're going to have to get notarized and sealed, all these things, so you can take into the bank so you can open up your bank account. But now after you do your EIN, again, you want to go ahead and get a 8832. Again, this is almost like a bridge or a connector between, you know, two different trust entities for tax purposes. So basically, if you already have your trust set up, your EIN already tax-free, everything like that, tax exempt, excuse me, with the IRS, then you're basically going to play the daddy trust to your child's trust, and you're going to connect the two with an 8832. That's exactly what an 8832 is. Again, it's the bridge. So once we have those things set up, again, you have your, let's start from the top. You have your authentication of your birth certificate. You actually did your legal name change. You got that all correct. And then you did your EIN. You got a foreign situs trust number. And then after that, you did your 8832 and connected that child's trust to your trust as the parent. Now, what we must understand too about all of this is, you know, your children are your property, right? You know, until they become 18. So what you want to do first and foremost too, after you've done all that and set that trust fund up, you want to go ahead and list them as property in your security agreement. You know, you should have a security agreement. If you haven't by now, you can go back and check out some of our other lessons and the estate planning lessons where we actually talk about it in deep details. But yeah, you want to have a security agreement. And a security agreement is something where you're basically holding all of your assets in your trust. And basically, in your own personal trust as the parent, you want to list your children as your actual property in your trust. So we must understand that. That's very, very, very important, because children are a property of the state if they are not taken control of by their parents. That's very, very important, right? Okay, so that's why I said it's very important that we go and authenticate your instruments, everything. So once you authenticate the instruments, this leads to step 5. After we've done that 8832, the thing that we want to do that's very important is go ahead and set them up a UCC trust with the government. You know what I'm saying? What is the UCC trust? It's the Uniform Commercial Codes that govern all commercial activity here in the United States. So it's important that we get a contract, because, you know, like I know, if you're going to be doing business, you know, you got to have a contract. That's important when you're doing any level of business. Contract. And contract is law. So the thing is, if we make a contract with the United States corporation, then they have to uphold what's in the contract. The name of the game is you got the pen in your own hand, so write the contract for your power and for your strength. That's why you do these UCCs and you put the information that you put in here, which we actually have a whole section on, which is attached to, because we don't have the time to break all of that down. But it's important that you do these UCCs, because this is what actually puts you in the commercial game, right? This is what gives you the pass to play the commerce. It's like, I guess it's kind of like Greeks, you know what I'm saying? When you cross and I guess you become you pledge and you become a member, you know, now you're able to, you know, go to the Divine Nine parties and go to all the, you know, the Greek activities and everything like that, because now you're a member, you're accepted in their society. Well, it's the same way every day in commerce, right? You know, once you actually put that lien through a UCC code, and through a UCC contract on your actual bond instrument that you went and got authenticated, you know, now you can actually be, how can I say, activated. You know, that's what the UCCs do. That basically activates you in their commercial world to be recognized as a human, right? You know, and like I said, if those are the uniform commercial codes that govern all commercial activities, don't you want to be within those governed codes, right? Then that makes sense. You know, and if you're going to be within those governed codes, why don't you write it up so that you can be Superman and have all the power? That's what you put a lien on your estate for, because if anybody brings any harm to it, any charges or any damages, you know, you got $1 million billion lien that can just suck up the charges and the damages. That's why it's important that you set up your trust. You know what I'm saying? And your bond, that's what the bond is. See, a bond isn't something you just go out and spend like cash, like money. No, you actually absorb the charges and discharge them off with your bond. That's why you authenticated it as yours. See, because you couldn't do that as a shadow slave of the system, because you were operating as corporate shadow, as property, right? But when you're in control of your life, you can use these bonds and these authentications in your favor, right? To get you other things and assets and discharge items that have been charged against your estate. Now that we actually have our trust filled out, you know, and it looks polished and pretty, Now we can go ahead and go to the bank. Well, first I would say go to the notary, because you actually have to get a certificate of trust signed in front of a notary, basically saying that this is you creating a trust, everything like that. They're giving you the stamp for that. And basically you can take that now to a bank, right? Take that to a bank with your trust papers and everything like that. And you're going to open up something called a trust account. Okay? A trust account. And with your trust account, you're going to need your certificate of trust papers, signed, sealed, whatever, by the notary. And once you actually get those trust papers signed, you're going to present those to them. Also, along with your EIN, remember, we got that foreign EIN. You can give that to them. And of course, a lot of banks are going to require that you actually have some type of identification. Not so much a social security, but, they're going to need a license or some type of primary identification and, a secondary identification. So you can have like a passport and something else. But I would advise go ahead and checking out the banks beforehand online, seeing what the requirements are and what it takes to open up a trust account. But you should have everything already in hand that you need to go ahead and set it up once you have the trust papers and once you have that EIN. Now, you set up that trust account with the bank. And this is when all the fun part comes in, because now we finally got all of the long stuff out of the way, all the paperwork, and now we can actually get into how we're going to really make money and generate wealth for this trust. And this is where the important part comes in, because really this is all about smart investments. And for the first one that I would probably truly honestly invest in would be silver. And metals. An ounce of silver is what, $15, $16, $17 an ounce. You can spend about $50 a month. Put that to the side every single month, $50 for your child. Whether he's here or whether he's not even born yet, you can put $50 to the month every single month out of your paycheck. $50. And that $50 can not just be put in the bank account to, gain value over time. Actually buy silver with that bank, with that money. So don't just put it in the bank account. Get silver. Buy silver bricks. $15 an ounce. You know what I'm saying? If you're getting $50 a month, breaking that down, what do you get? About 3 bricks of silver ounce a month. Just keep buying them. Keep buying them. Why? Why do you want to buy silver? Why do you want to buy metals and things of that such? Well, I'm going to tell you why it's a smart investment and why one day it'll pay off greatly for your children. Because just heading into the times that we are in with the financial inflation, with war, different things like that, it's going to be very, very, very important to know that if there ever was a disaster, and there ever was a catastrophe and war broke out, chaos or whatever, of course the stocks and different things are gonna, move up and down. Naturally, the price and the value of things are gonna skyrocket and some are gonna crash. So we need to understand that things like silver are gonna be worth a lot of money, right? It's gonna be worth a lot of money when it comes time for war and chaos and different things. Why? Because you can use things like silver and metals for things like bullets, for machinery, and they need those things, right? In order to do war and in order to fight and combat, you're gonna have to have that first and foremost. So of course that's gonna be a hot commodity. Now don't get it wrong, gold is always good, gold is cool, but gold isn't something that you just see being shot at people. You don't see too many gold machineries, you don't see too many gold bullets, you don't see things like that. Not saying that it's not valuable, it's still valuable, but in a time of war and chaos, we need machinery, guns, ammo, bullets, and things like that. And that's why silver and metals and things like that are going to come in very, very important. They're going to be worth a lot of money. So if you have silver, you bought a lot of silver, right? Back in the day, and you just have stacks and bricks of silver sitting around here. Then, oh yeah, even if those dollars crash, that's cool because you got silver and that's worth real value. So your sons that you actually invested all that in when they were younger just has bricks and bricks sitting in the house of silver, and he could take that to anywhere in the world, right? And get money. I mean, not even money, but he can get assets for that silver. He can get food for that silver. He can get all kind of things for that silver, and it'll be worth triple, quadruple By the time your son gets that age, especially if we don't have to go through a time of war or things like that. So just always keep important when you're thinking about investments and things that you're going to be dumping into your child's trust fund, their bank account, that you're thinking about the future and thinking about the environment, thinking about things that are being utilized, in order to, for goods and resources in order to build the things that they need, right? So always think about the source. Always think about the source, because if you go back to the source, then you can know what's going to always be needed in order to progress and even make it in those times. So, even another good investment. Bitcoins is cool. Digital money is cool. It might be here today, might be gone tomorrow. But at the end of the day, it's cool. It's a good investment. It's steady for right now, and it's here. So get your money. If you feel safe about it and you want to get your money and invest it, and dump it right back into your children's trust. And by the time your children turn 18, if they have $50 that you've set away every single month, that's built up, in silver, and then they have investments and stocks that are put in their name. And if you create a business and just donate a certain percentage, whether it's 10 or 15% every single month, right, to your son or to your daughter, and put that in their trust, in their bank account, and that's just building up, by the time they get 18, you're looking at 10, 15, 20,000 or even more if you invested in the right stocks. Your kids could already be millionaires. This is how you have people like DJ Khaled, who've created a whole trust for their children, no different than how I've explained for you. And basically, he made an album, right? And he basically, he put his son as like the executor on his album, and basically put him on the credits. So where he would always get paid forever off of every single time that somebody bought that album. So whether his son was just getting 10%, 15%, hell, DJ Khaled might have put the whole thing in his son's name, and all 100% of that album particularly could have went specifically to his son. Then every single album that was ever sold, his son would have been making money off of that, and that was going straight to his trust bank account. So by the time his son gets 18, by the time his son got 18 months, he was already a millionaire. You know what I'm saying? So that's what it's about. And what we need to understand is that's what Khaled did that was special for his son. He just used his talents and his gifts. He used what was important and what was special to him to bring in an audience that made money, right? And he took this money off of using his gifts and donated it to his son in his trust fund. That's why people need to get back to doing what they love to do, which is using and utilizing their talents to create businesses for their children so that they can provide for their family, man. You know what I'm saying? This isn't about, don't get it wrong. I respect the 9 to 5, and that's cool. Do what you got to do. But we need to get back to doing what we love too as well, right? So that we can make a better future, not only for our children, but for our families and for ourselves, so that we can be free and be happy. So that's what's important. Creating a trust fund for your child is important, and creating a successful business for your child that you can pass on and give to them in their trust when they turn 18 is important. We need to understand the importance of passing on things, right, to our family members. And if we already have a trust that's made in our name, that's something that we can already have written up. Our children could be the beneficiaries of our trust. And when we pass on, they can take control of our trust. They inherit the trust. That's what a lot of these Caucasians and Asians and, Jews and different things like that have been doing for years. This is all trust law, and they are passing down the trust and the inheritance through trust. And this is basically an entity that's in control of property. It's never ever a person that's held liable. It's always a entity that's foreign, operating outside of the United States. You feel me? It's private property. We must understand this. That's very, very important, because this is all about how you move and how you groove in this system. We can all be Neo out here, right? We can all be Neo, but we got to understand and understand, not even understand, we got to overstand what's going on around us at all times, right? Because once you know, then there's no reason to have no fear, because that's just false evidence appearing as real. Because when you understand the truth, well then you know who everybody out here playing the game is, right? This is the trust fund, baby, lesson. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please go out there and set up a trust for your children. Invest, start businesses, dump as much as you can, property, real estate, into your children's trust and register it with the bank, right? And just have all of this, just, gaining assets. And when your son or your child or your daughter turns 18, bless them, and all throughout their life, teach them how to control and how to run their trust. Teach them about the private side. Teach them how to operate. So when they get 18, it's a celebration because, I'm going to be rich and wealthy for the rest of my life. All of that money that you gave them, all of those assets, those are just, those are things that they can hold on to. Those are tangible. That's forever. You know what I'm saying? Get them a house, get them cars, get them things like that they can keep forever. Don't worry about trying to stack up bricks of money because the system and the banks can crash tomorrow, and that money ain't nothing but pillows to lay on. Teach your children smart and wise the difference between public and private and how to handle their banking affairs. This is all banking, people. Once you learn it, once you understand it, beat it into your children. Make sure they understand it. Not beat it, but make sure they understand it. And because these are the things they're not going to teach you in public school, how to be private. And that's what these other families and other cultures and other races and heritage are doing, right? This is why they're operating in business every day the way that they are. And a lot of us are looking around crazy, and only 2% of our dollar stays in our community because we don't understand the business that's operating around us. So let's take the time to stop, focus, listen, and let's handle our affairs. And let's handle our children's affairs by first starting with the baby's trust fund. That's your boy. I'm Cortland Kalaniel. I appreciate your time. Peace, love, and light to you, baby.